Oh, we had some good meetings. Yeah.
How did-
And we had your paper told that we came in the sixties, like it works. We.
Sorry. For a crowded concert.
Well, I said you. You're as bad as me. You wouldn't want to fish up. It's like your bum. People are angry.
That's even fun.
But then you don't see the quality.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. He read that they had, was it 6 million visitors a year to the Coliseum? Something like that, he's on.
Like 100,000 a day here.
Good, are
It's a lot.
you? 6 million, which breaks down to 17,000 a day, and that's, I wouldn't be surprised if the day we renewed it. I mean, and it's like,
I've
you
been-
go,
I've been there, yeah.
and you're bumping around, you wanna get a picture, but you can't, because you're 5 people deep. And then there's always the idiot who's up there on the like.
Hey guys, I'm gonna send this around, you guys will sign in, please.
People want money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't find sign
Well,
it,
So
so.
challenge.
Yeah, you have those memories, right,
Yeah.
the location.
That I need to go to, and if that doesn't work for you, I could gladly meet you Friday afternoon. Or if you wanted to drop all of it. Brokerage. That's just. That's for you. And
We're still alive after the house move and everything.
At Easton, time, okay. Sure. No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Maybe spring break.
We went on a 10-day cruise, and we went early, so we spent, the cruise was Rome, Rome, Greece, Turkey, and back to Naples. But we went early, so we spent 3 days in Rome.
Oh, did you? So you.
No, yeah,
And I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, your hair getting.
Oh, Saturday,
Thank you.
Okay, well, I tried to fix it from that.
Yes. Oh, we had a one.
Oh, can we start with his?
Yeah,
sorry.
Please, just 2 minutes, and it's about, okay, do whatever you want. Princess, it was a brand new ship, yeah. We were the third cruise, and it was 6 football lengths long.
There, if anyone's hungry, Mark did bring food. If you want to get food first, he's gonna let you know that there is food in the other room.
And I'll set up a table.
You know, in case you want to eat first.
Okay, actually.
Okay.
Summer.
Yes.
And then we did a
Yes.
7-night.
Okay, so what did you see?
Started in Madrid.
Okay.
And we started whenever you want. Well,
Yeah.
whenever we want to like start, so you could leave.
I think that's where they are now, like we're in a Facebook group of that ship, and I think when they left us, they did Barcelona, Madrid, and some
Mhm.
places like that.
Yeah. Wonderful. If you haven't been.
Oh, yeah, that's, if it's on the list, if I live long enough. Yeah.
Okay, not yet, but I think you want to get started.
Sure, I don't.
Mark, okay. But if you guys don't know, this is Mark Purcell with America's Preferred Home Warranty. And he did bring food that is here in the bistro, if you guys wanted to grab something, but he's sponsoring this evening, so take it away.
Thanks, Rachel. And yeah, like she said, my name is Mark Purcell. So if you wouldn't mind scanning that QR code, you just put your name and there's your agency number, and there's my name, so. Just to get you signed up for the class. Again, this will be very quick, very brief version of the training. So I'm with America's Preferred Home Warranty. If I look familiar, Chiero, I've been in the warranty business I've worked with, the Chiero team going back, 12 years, so the ABC home warranty. And then after that, IPS home warranty. A couple, differentiating factors that America's Preferred Home Warranty has. First is we allow our customers to contract with their own contractor. We don't have a database of contractors that we send your work to. Obviously, we've got to approve the work, but they're allowed to work with whomever they want to, as long as they're a licensed contractor. Just a few stats on how important our customers think that is. 9 out of 10 on all of them. Now, we did have a price increase, but we kept that base price the same, $4.99. Okay, that gets you everything that the home warranty covers, but it includes $100 deductible. Okay, so the service fee for that's $100. There's some other pricing there. We've got duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condo pricing, and then we got new construction. So that's a brand new unit of America's Preferred Home Warranty. So if you guys work with builders, that's something we can talk about. And here's something I think you guys will like. We've included, this is standard coverage now. So under the $4.99 standard plan, we will give you listing coverage for those items there, the water heater, plumbing, this is the hot water dispenser, which I don't know if you've worked with me in my previous life, that was something you had to pay for, okay? But we will cover this on the $4.99 plan, the $6.50 plan, and the $8.25 plan at no additional cost. Now, here are some of our risk management tools. I won't go into it, but as we go through these slides, just keep in mind we're covering everybody. This list of Chiero is going to cover the seller up to 2 years post sale, up to $1,000 of legal fees should something arise. Something like a boundary dispute is probably a good example of that. But again, we won't go too far into that. Now, if you wanted to upgrade the seller coverage for $125, we would cover during the listing period the appliances. Okay, so that's a big deal. The people that include seller coverage never include appliances. Okay, so for $125, you get pretty robust seller coverage there. And here's our standard buyers coverages. A couple things I want to point out: the septic system and the water well pump is included on the basic coverage, so there's no need to add anything there. But we do have an upgrade package. Again, if you look at this, it says built-in dishwasher. After that, it says adds. So we're already covering the dishwasher. But after that word adds, that's what we're additionally going to cover with the upgrade of $199. So racks and rollers and things like that that aren't traditionally covered under a home warranty. We will get this coverage under this preferred upgrade. So here's our first edition is the 650 Gold Plan. With the $499, remember that was the $100 deductible. With this one, it's a $50 deductible. Okay, so if that's something that your clients are more price conscious about, the service fee, this might be something for them. It includes all the risk management tools, but what it also includes and what we included in these warranties are identity theft protection. So up to $1 million of identity theft protection for the person in the house and whoever else lives in the house. If they have grandparents living in the house, college-age children that are taking out student loans, we will cover them in that house. And then we've got the premier package, which is $825, which gets you everything the 650 does, the identity theft protection, but it also includes the buyer's preferred upgrade. So if you buy that on its own, it would be $199. With this, it's $825, which essentially saves you $25 to add that buyer's preferred plan with the premier package here. And it also gives you the identity theft and gives you the title theft protection.
I'm so sorry, guys.
All right. So that'll get you the $50 deductible as well. So here's just some facts or some facts on the identity theft protection. It's up to $1 million in protection. Full family coverage, like I said. And they got full restoration and recovery services. So as soon as you enroll in the 650 plan, the 825 plan, AIG, which is the company that runs that identity theft plan, will be in contact with you and get you signed up. And what they'll do is they'll take all your account information, and each month they will send you a printout of all those accounts that you've enrolled into the identity theft protection program. And then, they'll give you a check mark on it, yep, everything's good, everything's good. And then they will say, brought to you by, Kathy Chiero. Okay, so and that's once a month, so that's 12 touches, the 365 days after everybody's left, except the home warranties. Home title theft protection, that's included in that, and that's going to take it from close. The title, insurance will take it up to close, but after that, the title theft protection, we will cover it. And that'll cover any property you have. You've got the main dwelling, and then if they've got a place in Florida, a place in Arizona, we'll cover that as well. There's just some identity theft facts. Again, Rachel's got this PowerPoint, so she can send this out as soon as we're done here. Same thing, home title theft facts. Some optional coverages that we've included. We got additional refrigerator, gas fireplace, a couple pool add-ons, termite control, water softener there. And there's our Real Pro app. I don't know if anybody uses the Real Pro app, but that's the best way to order warranties and to track data collection forms, so we can get you paid. Really 5 easy ways to order the home warranty. And the first one I just talked about was the Real Pro app, or you can go to our website, order it that way, email it to our office, or call it in. Or worst case, last resort, email me and I get it printed. And then this is just, what's covered. We got 26 covered items. We bolded what we don't cover to make it easier to see. Terms and conditions are just to scan that QR code, and that's located on the back of our brochure. It used to be a 12-page brochure. We condensed it down to 8 pages because we're able to do this with the terms and conditions. Starting claims, pretty easy as well. Call our 1-800 number, speak to a team member, go online, do it that way. We've got 24/7, 365 live answer. We're located in Jackson, Michigan, so you can call any day, anytime, and you'll get a live person answering the phone. We can actually even pay a contractor over the phone, as long as they can take a credit card. So that's it. Like I said, I'm Mark Purcell. And anything you guys know, I've been in this industry my whole career, so there's literally nothing I haven't heard. So going forward, and you got my contact information. If you don't, I can get it to you. So just if something comes up on an inspection, something weird you see in the HVAC or something like that, anything. I was on the service side of the home warranty with ABC before it became, part of the sales team. So I was out in customers' homes working on hot water tanks, gas piping, plumbing pipes, things like that. So it really gives me good perspective on things that maybe you guys aren't familiar with. So always use that.
We have your updated pamphlet in Dotloop also,
Oh, perfect.
in our templates, yeah.
And I should have on the slide. Did I send you my business card, my digital business card? I sent it to Dayla, she should have it.
Okay.
But yeah, just, like I said, that phone number is for you guys to use anytime you've got questions or concerns about the warranty or even about contractors. I can answer those questions too. Like I said, we do let you get your own contractor, but if you're not familiar with the area, we've got contractors that work with the regs for warranty in the past that are familiar with how we work, so we have to provide that to you as well. But it's just you working with the contractor, we're out. All we do is we ask to call us first. And then before the contractor makes any repair, call us back, tell us what it is, just to make sure that cover that. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay.
I'm heading down to wine tasting, so.
And I'm following you.
I think what we do. So thank you guys, everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. I'm gonna leave some brochures up here on the table, so just take them if you guys are interested. My card's in there, so.
Are you a local rep? Are you a local rep?
Yeah.
You guys, while we're setting this up, Mark brought dinner here. So there's sandwiches, chips and all that. Why don't we take a quick break if you guys want to come grab something to eat and come back in here and we'll be ready to go. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for dinner.
Enjoy it, take it home. Thanks to 6. I think I tried to most of that, sorry.
So it's a Zoom set up and moving.
Yep, I just forgot to share the green, so it shared screen now, and
How are you, dear?
our back camera, like we have the presenter showing too, but back camera is not working.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think everything is good. Good, go have fun. Thank you.
Bye, Rachel. Make it good.
Fun.
Thanks, how are you?
Happy about here, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Have a good class.
See ya. In a couple weeks. Well, there you go.
That's day one of day two, I gotta do it tomorrow.
Oh, my gosh. Well, did you learn anything? I don't know.
I'll figure out here, I'm gonna hang out.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
No, that is exhausting.
Yeah, we have to do something, yeah. Okay. You'll get over it.
Okay, really, it's handy. Where that came from.
There we go.
Good.
Kathy, I was thinking, I finally it dawned on me, I was looking at my past plan. We did the Peppermint and what was it, Stonebridge Court?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one we did.
Okay. Oh, boy, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. We were just so happy that we hated that the other thing fell apart, but we were happy to get that one. Next.
I don't know, did she tell you what $500?
No, that's fine. So.
Perfect. Because I think that's a day, so
Yes.
that give them a day
Yes.
of board
I think
night.
it's a night.
Or 2 5-hour day.
Yes, which I think is
Yeah,
perfect.
that's a great gift, and I'll make up, now that I know it's her.
She's gonna make the gifts.
Is she good?
Yeah, I asked her to
Okay,
do that
we
too.
can Okay. All right, we're gonna get started. I'm Kathy Chiero, and I have obsessed over this topic for at least a year and a half. Watching as this lawsuit has been rumbling. And so what I want to do right now is kind of set expectation for tonight, because there's still a whole lot we don't know, and I'm not going to pretend we do. And so some of what I tell you tonight might be illegal in July, but I'm working with the best knowledge we have right now, and quite frankly, there's a lot of it that's just common sense. So I want to start by, I want you to take this in, this phrase right here. This is Gary Keller and his team have been doing a series of live sort of talks about this. I hope some of you have kept that. But I was listening to one of them and he said this, and I listened to that. I heard him say that. I jotted it down when he said it. And I said, unfortunately, it's absolutely true. I mean, how many times have you, I'm not saying we don't work hard, we all work hard, but how many times have you gotten a phone call, sold a house, made 15,000 and thought, God bless America. You know, we live here, we live here and we have often bragged about how much money we make for the little work we do. How many of you have signed on to a new build and thought, great, I just made 15 grand for doing nothing, you know? So again, shame on us that has become our opinion many times of our work. Recently, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw a lender who wrote this wonderful tome to realtors about how hard we work and how wonderful we are. And she was so sorry we were being picked on because we were all hard workers. And my husband and I said, this is so much bullshit. I mean, bless her heart. I'm glad she loves us, but you know, we are not a sympathetic group. Nobody feels sorry for us, okay? I have no doubt why that jury voted against us, because we are not a loved group. We are not a group that people say, oh, they work so hard and they make no money, and I'm surprised they're not on bread lines. No, we are the group that when we go to a closing, someone looks at the HUD statement and says, boy, I'm in the wrong profession. So again, we are not a sympathetic group. Nobody looks at us and feels sorry for us. So what that means moving forward is that we have to earn the respect back. We have to earn the trust back. We have to earn our living in the most realistic and literal sense. So when we're talking about this lawsuit, there's a lot I don't like about it. There's a lot about it that's simply not true. There's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding. And I honestly believe at the core of this is attorneys who just wanted to get very rich with the fees. And they are the winners in this. The attorneys are the winners in this. So let me start by saying that. But there is truth that came out of this lawsuit. And that's what I want to deal with tonight. There are standard practices that we need to change. There are mindsets that we need to change. There are protocols we need to change, and we need to do a whole lot to burnish this sort of tarnished reputation we have in some circles as realtors. And I put 4 things that we have assumed that we need to realize were in error. First of all, we have assumed trust, which might not be merited. We have assumed that when we told sellers something about our commission and what we were, we have assumed that they trusted us with that, and we're learning that maybe they did not. We have assumed knowledge, which isn't there. How many of you have taken a buyer out to show a home, assuming they know what they're doing, assuming they're pre-approved, assuming they know their rights and responsibilities, and in fact, they didn't because you never sat down to educate them. You never sat down to tell them. We have assumed loyalty that we didn't earn. Any of you who have ever picked up a Zillow lead, you're assuming loyalty, but you haven't earned it. All you did was answer the phone. All you did was pay a monthly fee to Zillow. You have not earned the loyalty of that client. And finally, we have assumed payment for services that we never rendered. We have assumed that we earned that 3%. When did you ever sit down with the buyer and explain to them the process of buying a home? Did you ever sit down with the seller and maybe even suggest to them that selling their home is not the best option for them right now? Did you ever do that? So again, we have to look really hard at this and say, what have we assumed in the past and how do we change that? How do we start earning our living, earning in the most real sense, so that people walk away and say, boy, Kathy Chiero earned every penny of what I just saw on that settlement statement. Boy, Dave Weissman worked his butt off for me. Whatever he got paid, I owe him more money after that. That's what we need to turn the tables on this. So I want to look at it tonight from 2 angles. The first group I'm going to talk to is listing agents. Because how many of you list 2 homes a year? You think 2 of you, some of you list a couple homes a year at least. Okay, so we carry a burden in this that is equally important to what I'm going to say later in the meeting about buyers and buyers agents. The listing agents, we need to start when we're sitting down and listing homes to begin to educate the seller as to the value of who? Buyer's agent. We just skip right over that, okay? Because we assume the seller's okay with paying that agent because after all, it's 6%. It's always been 6%. For 70 years, it's been 6%. We assumed they understood that was why. We assumed they were okay with it. So we're assuming they know what a buyer's agent does. So one of the first things we need to realize as we are entering into this new and different world is that assumption needs to go out the window, and we now need to change our listing presentations. Now, I'm going to start by assuming that you have a listing presentation, okay? And this is not a listing presentation class. We should have one because I am shocked at how many homeowners I meet with. And I've been in the business almost 30 years. So it is half the time I'm going on a listing presentation, I am competing with another agent. They're interviewing agents and I'm one of 3, okay? So I am shocked when I talk to homeowners as to how many top realtors have no presentation. They come in, they walk through the house, they throw numbers on the table, and they assume that because of their name or who they are, they're earning trust. So one of the first things we are going to be put on the hot seat to do is sell our value. I can now not assume that. I can now not just throw numbers down and say, you need to hire me because my name's on a lot of signs. I now, if I want to be paid 3%, I have to sell my value. Well, you should be doing that anyway. This is a listing presentation that I've tweaked and used, but I've used a version of it now for 25 years. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm going to go through the part where I changed it, to enter this new era. But I am going to touch a little bit on what it means to sell your value as a team member. So in a listing presentation, I introduce them to myself and what I've done. I talk about my team, how that team supports them. I talk about what they should be looking for in a realtor. And as I hit all these points of looking for in a realtor, I sell my value in all of those areas. I talk about what they can expect from me. I talk about what our team mission is in that. I talk about the tools that buyers are using to find their home. I then talk about the internet. What is, other than the internet, what tools are being used? I talk about the importance of the internet and the MLS in marketing their home, because what happens on the MLS goes online, and that's how the consumer is going to find their home. I talk to them about the importance of how visually seeing their home. I tell them the MLS is a dating app for houses, and if their home doesn't look good, the person's going to swipe left. Or is it right? I haven't dated in a long time. So, but again, so then I offer my services with a staging consultation. I have before and afters of after our stagers have been to our clients' homes. I then talk about the importance of good photography and how we hire only professional photographers and what that does in showing how their home looks. I then talk about why that's important, that once their home is online, staged well, shown well, that it's on hundreds of websites. And so what their home looks like is very important, and we don't let their home hit those websites until it looks as good as it possibly can. Why is that important to them? I talk about why an internet-driven housing market, why that's important, that the buyer is in the driver's seat, that pre-internet tools are ineffective. And then I talk about, well, gosh, now that we have the internet, what does an agent do? So we talk about what buyers rely on the MLS via the internet to find a home. They rely on realtors too. And we talk about what the buyer's agent does. That the buyer's agent provides access to the MLS, provides entry to the home, advises them on the value and marketability, right, present, negotiate offers, and handles the transaction to closing. I talk about the signs that's in their yard, why that's important, why my signs direct all inquiries either to someone on my team or to our website, that no stranger will be talking about their home, that I will be the one talking about and selling their home. I talk about our website, how their home will be featured on our website, that their home will be featured as a featured listing, and that if anybody clicks on the home from our website, that the information comes directly to me or to the listing agent. I talk about the market today. I've added this this year because everybody wants to know, is it still a seller's market? So what am I bringing to bear? I'm bringing to bear my expertise and all these prices. What can they expect in the various price ranges for their homes? Go through these slides about the low-end, mid-range, and high-end homes. I talk about how location is important, but it's not the driver. That price is the driver of sales, and an overpriced home in a good location won't sell. A well-priced home in a bad location will sell. So we start the pricing equation. I give them the definition of what a well-priced home is. What is the appraisal definition of a well-priced home? I educate them on my education in terms of pricing and why that is an expertise of mine and why it's important. Why is it important? Because the price on their home is going to be examined 3 times. And that if we don't get it right, their home is just going to sit out there. Okay, so I just did in 3 minutes what takes me 20 minutes in a listing presentation. Now, this is what I added to start right now. I bring up, how do I get paid? Okay, this was never a discussion before, okay? You just came in with a pre-printed listing agreement that said you're gonna pay me 6%, okay? So how do I get paid? What do I get paid? And do you have a choice? So first of all, my compensation is negotiable. That's going to be the law, okay? You come in, the first thing I say to them, let me first of all straightforward tell you my compensation is negotiable. My goal is that the value I bring to the table is worth an investment of 3% of the purchase price. Now, what have I just done for 20 minutes? I've sold my value. I've said, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is how I do it. This is how I stand out from other realtors. This is what I'm good at. This is my experience. This is how I work for you. Now, having said that, you don't have to pay me anything. It's negotiable, but my hope is that I have proved to you that my value is worth 3% of the investment. Now, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say, let me tell you what's also new in town is how does the buyer's realtor get paid? Did I ever care about that prior to any of this happening? It never came up in a listing presentation. It only came up when I was doing the sell estimate of proceeds, and I would say it's 6%, I get 3, they get 3, then they'd say to me, well, can we negotiate yours? Well, maybe sometimes I can, I can't, I will, I won't, but we can't touch that buyer's agent, they always get 3%, okay? So never even came up, except now it's going to be a part of my listing presentation. How does the buyer's realtor get paid? And then the next question you're going to get, and would you like to offer compensation to the buyer's agent? Would you like to? Okay, you don't have to, but would you like to? So let me now train you on what a buyer's agent does. Again, did I ever care? No, but now I'm going to take my time in the listing presentation to make sure you get paid by the seller. So I put in here, I have dozen things that the buyer's agent does. He procures a buyer. He assists the buyer in getting approved for a marriage. I'm sorry, mortgage. Explains the process to the buyer. Make certain,
right?
huh?
It is a marriage, right?
Yeah, there you go. Make certain that, I've always said that dating is like a home inspection. You don't find the real problems till you move in. But anyway, make certain that the buyer is financially, mentally, and emotionally prepared to purchase. Introduces the buyer to your home through connection with all available home search sources. Sells the buyer on your home, even before showing it. Points out the features that makes your home stand out. Compares and contrasts the value of your home with competing properties. If that weren't enough, even more, this same buyer's agent is going to communicate with me to craft an offer acceptable to you. They're going to write the offer, including all terms important to the buyer. They're going to present the offer that clearly defines the terms to the listing agent. They're going to negotiate in representation of the buyer. They're going to make sure that transaction is on track, meeting deadlines, work with the lender to get the home to close on time. They're going to work to solve problems, work as a liaison between the buyer and partners to promote a smooth closing. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, don't you think the buyer's agent provides a valuable service to you? Now, I have been able to do 6 listing presentations using this, and I have yet to have one where the homeowner's not shaking their head, going, yeah, we get it. Yeah, we want that. So then I have sold my value. I have sold the buyer's agent's value. So then I say, you have an opportunity to contribute to the buyer's agent's compensation. This contribution can be 0% to higher a percentage of the sales price or a flat fee. So I'm putting it out to them. How much would you like to contribute to this? But before you answer that, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, let me tell you what's at stake. To help you make this decision, the offer of compensation, well, as of today, is stated in the MLS system. And I show them this, that whatever is offered will be public to the buyer. I'll get back to that. The amount you offer will not affect your placement in the MLS or other sources. That was another complaint of the lawsuit, that if you did not choose to pay the buyer's agent, Realtor.com would put your home further down in the list. So it won't affect, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, it will not affect your placement in the MLS. Buyer's agents will negotiate their compensation with their clients. However, some buyers will not be able to afford their agent in addition to the down payment and closing costs. That's a true statement. Is that not a true statement? There's gonna be some buyers that can't afford that. An offer of 0% or $0 may affect the number of showings on your home. Is that a true statement? That's a true statement. If you're working with a buyer who doesn't have the money and the seller's not compensated, then we're gonna get to that. You're gonna have to tell that buyer, I can't show you that home because they're not offering to pay. I'm not telling you, I'm not showing you because I'm not getting paid. I'm saying you have expressed to me that you don't have the money to pay me and they're not offering to pay. So that home is off the list of homes that you can look at. If a buyer is deciding between two competing homes and ask their realtor's opinion, a low or no compensation offered listing may affect the sale of your home. That's a true statement, okay? Most listings, and now this is where it might be illegal. If Mark, raise your hand, it's illegal. Most listings in the MLS offer between 2 to 3% to the buyer's agent. That's a true statement. As of now, that's a true statement. Now, this is where we get into muddy water. I don't know that we'll be allowed to say that, but that's it. We'll not be allowed to say it.
No, I wouldn't bring up any type of compensation.
Okay.
The numbers, right? We're not allowed to say the numbers, right?
No. I would stick to the point where you were before, is zero to any percentage above that or a flat fee.
Okay, so,
But I mean, as of today, that is that's true, but
yeah,
this is coming down the line, we need to train.
right.
So we can't even bring up that, I suggest that, no, we can't, I cannot suggest, okay, 3%, 4%, whatever, I usually say.
I can tell you in real life what happens, because I've done this 6 times already. They're going to ask, what do most sellers do? And that truth is, most sellers do between 2 and 3%.
It's
So,
your choice.
yeah, it's your choice to do it, but most sellers, I had one home, one of my listings appointment was a $400,000 listing. And the homeowner said to me, well, if we go with the flat fee, what would be fair to pay the buyer's agent? And I said, for a $400,000 home, 10 grand. They both sit there and go, oh, okay, we would do that. Okay, I just got the buyer's agent 2.5%. Okay, again, what I want to stress when you're a listing agent is I have yet to have a seller who thinks this is not a bad idea. I have yet to have a seller who said, no way, if I can get away with not paying anything. When you explain to them the value of the buyer's agent, and when you explain to them that it's built into the purchase price of their home, as it always has been, and when you explain to them that they still have a choice in the matter, I've only had 6 appointments, but I have yet to have one of those 6 homeowners say, no, we're not going to give anything. They all see the logic, they all see the value, and they all say, sure, we'll do that. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret that pleases me as a listing agent. In the old way of doing things, I was always fighting for my commission. Now I skip right over and get 3% and try to get you too. So again, I think it's going to be a win for listing agents because I think in the seller's mind, they are going to be saying, well, okay, well, sure, we'll pay you the 3%, but let's think what we want to pay the buyer's agent on there. So again, I say to you, for those of you who list homes, that you are key in beginning the process of educating the seller as to the value of the buyer's agents in our market. And not just the value because they're nice people and they do work hard, but they are an essential component to getting their home sold at top dollar with a smooth transaction and ending up at closing with everybody happy and with money in their pocket. Most homeowners, when you share that with them, automatically see that value, make that connection and say, yeah, we're in, we'll do that. Okay, before I get to the buyer part, Mark, do you have any comments on that to say, no, you can't do that, or this is gonna be out the window?
Well, the only thing moving forward, remember the people who are looking at homes on the MLS, they're not gonna be able to see compensation.
Right.
Unless it's in a different type of portal, like your personal website. So if they go, hey, I wanna see this house on 123 Main Street, and you call the broker and the broker says, no, there's no compensation on this particular sale. If you have an obligation to share that with the buyer.
Right.
And that the buyer, then you also have a business decision to make. Am I gonna show this house if there's no compensation and the buyer can't afford it?
But doesn't the buyer's agency comes first?
Well, that's what I was
Well,
gonna say.
that's next.
That's next, where I'm gonna say, if you're showing them houses, you have already a signed agreement with them.
You have that.
Yeah.
You have an obligation, just to let you know, on the buying side, you do have an obligation to discuss this with your client, not take it off the list totally. You cannot just say, well, if you're not gonna pay me, I'm not gonna show up.
Right, but if they have already signed an agreement that says that they will pay you, and now the house offers no payment, they are the ones likely to take it off
Yeah,
the
that's where Kathy's
list
going next,
and say that, yeah, so,
Hate to
So,
assume.
Kathy,
Yeah.
You know what happened?
yeah, yes.
at the buyer consultation, I mean, even the agency, the exclusive right to represent the buyer, it said, I mean, this is where we agree on, okay, what homes we're gonna show, what homes
Right.
we're not gonna show. This is
That's
where.
the discussion in the buyer's meeting, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and I'll get to that, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. What do you want me to do if you pick a home you want to see and the seller is not offering any compensation? What do you want me to do? Do you still want to see it? Or do you want to voluntarily say, look, I'll take that one off the table because we don't have the money to pay you to do that? And again, that's part of the conversation with your buyer when we do that. So before I move on, any other questions about the seller end or any of this? Before we move on, okay, I just wanted to point out again that the listing agent, I believe, is a key partner in this, because it's going to be our job to make sure that the seller understands the buyer agent value so that there is buy-in from the beginning. And here's what I honestly believe, and again, my small sample of 6 people. Because I have gotten zero resistance, and I've talked to one of my listings appointments was 125,000 and the other one was 725, somewhere in the middle. I've gotten zero resistance. I honestly believe that this is gonna be a ripple in real life. I just don't think it's gonna be that big a deal. I think the number of homeowners who are going to say zero is going to be a very small percentage of homeowners out there. I think most of them are going to see the wisdom, the financial logic, and also the value in putting some sort of offer of compensation along with their with the sale of their home.
Look, Kathy, I had the same outcome, except they were worried, how are we gonna articulate it? How can you write it? They wanna know the technical side of it.
Oh, you mean, how do you put it in a contract?
Yeah, in
The verbiage.
the verbiage, what are you gonna have?
Yeah.
To explain.
Well, if the seller is still offering the compensation, then it's wrong, Mark. I think it's the same as we've always done it. You're gonna see us on the settlement statement, the money coming from the, from the seller onto a settlement statement. And if I've already, and here's the big question nobody knows, is are we gonna use smoke signals? Like, how are we gonna communicate this? But it will be resolved. I mean, I was saying the other day, we just put it in showing time under the showing instructions. It's not MLS, so, you put it in there. So my guess is that everybody who shows a home in some form, even if I'm just answering the phone 20 times, is going to know before they show the home what the seller's offered compensation is. And then you just put it in the purchase offer. Just like, I don't know, have you ever written an offer on for sale by owner? And you just put, seller to pay buyer's broker 3% of blah, blah, blah. So I can't imagine, unless that's illegal now, but I don't think so. If the seller's made that compensation offer and you verbally or in other ways that's been translated, that as a buyer's agent, you just put that in the purchase offer. So that's what you.
There might be another addendum, Kath. I don't know what the guidelines are gonna be at this time. But if I know that, hey, by the way, Kathy's listing will compensate me, you know, a certain percentage or a flat fee, I might have to send over an agreement. That, and you know, the brokers, you know, just like we do, you know, broker to broker compensation. Because then it's gotta get to the title company.
This
If it's
is,
part of the sale price, then the, you know, where's the lender come in? Because now the lenders are fighting, are they gonna finance, you know, commissions, so.
this is an addendum that was sent to me from the Northwest Ohio Realtors area. This is an addendum that's going to go with every purchase contract, just saying who's paying what in terms of the commission. And that's going to become a standard form with every purchase contract. It's going to say this is, so it might be in the contract, or I'm sure the wise people down at the Columbus Board of Realtors will come up with a like form that says this is included. You call Kathy Cairo says you're offering 3%. So part of your purchase offer is to fill out this addendum. That goes along with the contract.
Amendments right now.
Yeah, that's what's in the works, but something like this. Did you have a question,
Yeah, I
Matthew?
do. So let's say you have a buyer that they really don't have the money to pay,
Yeah,
and they're offering nothing on the listing end. So what if the people say, well, you know, I'd really like to have this house. What if you make the offer, even though they're not offering the money, but you request it in the purchase?
you'll see when I get to the buyer's thing, I call that the Hail Mary. You know, if you want to give it a shot, but remember, by the time you're out showing them houses, they've already agreed to pay you something, or you have agreed to work for nothing. Okay, that's already been decided. So it's not a matter of am I going to work for nothing? It's a matter of you are aware with your signature on a document that we have agreed that you're going to pay me X amount of dollars. So before we go look at this house that's offering nothing, how are you going to meet that agreement? You know, to pay me that. Now, there are some tricks. You can say, well, look, why don't we ask for a 3% concession towards your closing costs? Because you said you would save money for your closing costs and get the seller to pay that. And now you pay me out of the money that was your closing cost money. So, but one of the things that we all have to get in our heads is that legally and with right protocols, you should not even be at a house with a buyer until all of this discussion is finished. They have signed a document and there's clear understanding of what you're getting paid, no matter what house they look at. So really what I see happening is very much like appraisal gap money, you know, where you're going to the buyer before you make an offer and say, look, there's competing offers here. Do you have any appraisal gap money? Well, no, but I guess we could sell our truck or we could ask mom or dad. You know, in other words, if they have to have the money, are they going to be able to come up with it? The difference being you're having that conversation before they ever go on the road.
One approach that was addressed is you have to be careful on this too. If you're looking for, let's just call it 3% on a $400,000 house, you don't have any extra money, you need $12,000. You could offer them $412,000, but then and then you take that loan out at $412,000. And if it's at whatever 4, 6, 7%, and you're going to finance it for 30 years, and you sell the house in 4 years, you have a very small coverage, and then the new buyer will compensate you back for the money. If you understand that math.
Yeah.
So it is like appraisal gap coverage, but in the event that the house doesn't appraise for $412,000, you got to come up with $12,000.
Yeah.
Or whatever the gap is.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that's what
again,
that is saying.
and what I think is going to happen, and I've said this all along because I have no faith in mankind, is that money is going to drive the decision. At the end of the day, if someone says to me, well, we can't put that on the settlement statement because that's against the rules that, you know, to have the broker's compensation paid, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, well, then that rule is going to get changed because there's too much money involved. The title companies are making money, the lenders are making money, the government's making money, taxes are getting paid, and everybody's getting money. So as long as there's that much money, they'll change the rules to make it work, to make it work where we can put the money where it needs to go. Okay, let's switch gears now. Now you're meeting with a buyer. Now I've asked Mary to come and be the buyer for me. And I put it on the big screen, but in real life, I would either have this on a laptop. Let me back up and say, you should already be doing buyer meetings. And if you aren't, shame on you. And you guys caused this problem. No, but you should already be. And my team members, I tell them, and this is even changing, but I said, look, with a little grace, I give you one house free. And that means if somebody calls and says, I want to see a house, I will give you one house free because you don't know me and we'll get to know each other, but you want to see 2 houses, you're coming to my office. And we're going to sit down and have this meeting and we are going to get a buyer's agreement signed. Now, that's been sort of my loose rule in the past. Now that's even changing. You don't get one house free. You have to come in. But let me first sell you on the value of that meeting. The value of that meeting, let's forget the commission thing right now. Just historically, in working with buyers, the value of that meeting is that every minute you spend with a buyer engaged, contributing, educating, promoting their best interest is loyalty, 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 loyalty. You want, if whenever I hear realtors saying, well, gosh, I showed up 10 houses and then they went off and did this and they're working with another realtor and I got screwed. I always say, well, it's your fault. I don't care the backstory, that's your fault. You did not build loyalty, you did not educate, you did not sell your value, otherwise they wouldn't have done that. So again, it is our responsibility, day one, to sit down with your buyers and say, look, I know it takes a little bit of time and you want to go see that house on Main Street. We've got it set up at noon. Why don't you meet me at my office at 10:30? And before we go see that house, I just want to make sure you understand the process, you understand the cost, that we get to know each other, that I can earn your trust and I can really listen to you to find out what your needs are. Is that okay? Can we do that? So then you get them into the office. What happens in the next hour and a half is largely going to predict the trajectory of that transaction. Because you're going to build loyalty, you're going to show your knowledge, you're going to build trust. Let me tell you what happens when you don't do that. Is that every transaction has bumps in the road. Sometimes small bumps, sometimes lawsuits. But every time you go through a transaction, there's bumps in the road. If you have not set the stage with that meeting and you hit a bump in the road, your clients are going to be looking at each other and say, well, where did you find her anyway? You met her at open house. I didn't know who she was. You know, all of the doubts come in because you did not sell your value to them. You did not show them that you're worthy of being hired, worthy of being paid, and that you care about their best interest. So regardless of what's going on right now in our world, these meetings are essential to building trust and loyalty to carry you on the long road to getting to closing. Can you imagine going and setting a sign in the yard and starting to and walking in on a Sunday to hold an open house with no listing agreement signed? No, because you would not have gotten permission, you would have not gotten a buy-in, you would have not gotten engagement, but we do that every day with buyers on there. I've got a son who's a realtor, he's 29, and I swear he's never done a buyer's meeting. And every time he calls me, which is quite frequent, about problems he's having, I say to him, okay, son, this would not have happened if you had had a buyer's meeting. This would not have happened if you had asked that at a buyer's meeting. Why are you just learning this 3 weeks in? Because you didn't have a buyer's meeting. He still doesn't have buyer's meetings. So thank God the law may make him do what he wouldn't do for his mother. But my point is that buyer's meeting is essential. So Mary has come in. Hi, Mary. How are you? Is it your first home?
Yes, first home. Nervous?
Tell me a little bit about you, what you're looking for, and how much do you know about the process?
I just, know a little bit from what my parents told me, but they haven't bought a house for quite some time. My husband and I, it's our first house, gonna have a baby soon, so very, very excited, like a little room for the baby to play and the dog, but just really excited.
Do you have a style of home you like, or do you not know enough about what's out there?
I kind of like the modern farmhouse look, but have the talent to be able to also turn it into. I don't expect it to be exactly modern farmhouse when we first look at it.
But if I'm hearing you right, you're not doing condos, I'm guessing, you're really just a single family home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so have you done anything in the process? Have you talked to a lender?
No, I just wanted to come meet with you and see what we need to.
Okay. All right. Well, Mary, thank you. I'm going to go through a process here and I ask you just to bear with me because we're going to be kind of detailed on what we're going over, but that's because I want to make sure that I answer any questions you have, hear any concerns that you have, and at the end of this meeting, you'll know more than most realtors, okay?
That
We
sounds
can go.
great. Sounds
So, first thing we're going to talk about, in this process is why do you need a realtor? First of all, I and my colleagues, first of all, we bring a wealth of knowledge here. I've done this for almost 30 years. My team members are all licensed full-time realtors, and they also bring to the table a lot of years of selling homes. By the way, you guys, when I do buyers meetings, they have a copy of this little book. You don't have to have this. I don't want you to feel like, gosh, I don't have that. I can't have a buyers meeting. But if you want one of these little books, get a good lender. We'll pay for half of it. It's a whole nother class. But anyway, this little book. So normally Mary would have this book, and each page up here is a page in here, and she's going over it with me. So Mary, let me share with you a few things that we do for you. Number one, because you have a realtor, it's going to save you a lot of time. We're not going to waste time looking at homes you don't like, homes you can't afford, homes out of the area. You're not going to have to do all that phone calling and running around. That's my job to do that. It's also my job to know the housing market. So if you ask me questions about school systems or traffic or resale, that's my job to have a general knowledge of all of that stuff. We can help you with any home you want. It can be for sale by owner. It can be a new build. It can be a home in your neighborhood that's listed by another agent. Doesn't matter. You see a home, what I want you to do, Mary, is I want you to call me. And if it's not a home that I have sent you in the MLS, still call me and tell me about it. I'll find out the information for you.
Okay.
The other thing we know is that you can, are you a cash buyer, Mary?
Oh, I would have thought it was, but I know
Yeah.
not.
So we know you're gonna need a lender. So what we do also is we're gonna plug you into some of our best partners in the lending area. We're gonna help you get a mortgage, and we're gonna walk you through that process. We also are just great information for what's going on with the building in the area. Various areas you want to live in. We know a little bit about school systems. We can point you to resources to know what are the better school systems depending on your child's or your child to be's interests, that sort of thing. Shopping, retail, the traffic patterns of the CODA bus, all of that are things we can bring to the table and help you with. We're also very good in helping you assess resale. You know, when you buy a house, you're essentially borrowing money that you're going to have to pay back. Our goal is to make sure that you're able to pay that money back and have a little extra to keep for your wealth building. And finally, we are combined, my whole team has over 100 years of experience in negotiating contracts. So when we're advocating for you, Mary, it's done so from a position of experience and strength, and we know what we're doing. I've often said that one of your immediate wins when you're a buyer is that when we're making an offer with virtually any agent in the city, when you come with the name of the Kathy Chiero Group behind you, that agent knows who we are. They're going to know that you are well represented in the purchase of your home.
Okay.
A little bit about us and about our philosophy of business, and I want you to know this. And I'm going to read it to you because I want you to know that this is not just a statement we put down, but it's how we operate our business. Our business principles are biblically based. We choose to deal honestly in every real estate transaction. We treat our clients, fellow team members, and real estate colleagues as we would want to be treated, offering the very best in real estate representation. We assure our clients the highest caliber of advocacy and treat our colleagues with respect. We will not compromise our personal or team reputation for any amount of money. If it's not true, we don't say it. If it's not fair, we don't do it. If it's not right, we walk away. Now, the reason I share that with you, Mary, is because that which is a broad statement could become very personal when you're asking us questions about a home. We simply won't lie to you. If you ask me, Kathy, is this a good purchase? Even if it's has the perfect farmhouse sink, if I think it's overpriced, if I think it's in a bad or depreciating area, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that. At the same thing, if you decide this is the best house for you, then I'm going to do my best in every way to make sure that you get that home.
I like that.
Next thing is we're talking about securing financing, and I want to walk you through that because this is very important. We've already determined that we can't buy a home without getting a mortgage. So first thing we're going to recommend you do is talk to a few reputable lenders. We work with excellent lenders. We're gonna give you a few names to call. But what we ask you to do is find your comfort level with whoever you're working with. They're gonna offer different kinds of loans, features for that loans. I often say it's like a short-term marriage. You gotta like them and you gotta feel like you're being listened to. You've gotta feel like that they know your needs and are gonna find the best product for you. The other thing I'm gonna tell you to do is to go ahead and get pre-approved for that mortgage. We're working in a really fast-moving market. And in that market, if you find a home you like on Saturday, we likely don't have time to wait till Monday for you to be able to get pre-approved. So we like you to go get pre-approved. And the other thing that does for us, Mary, it tells us your comfort zone, because you're likely to get approved for a whole lot more than you want to spend. So you're going to come back to me and say, okay, Kathy, we're approved for X amount of dollars. And I'm going to say, what is that monthly payment? And what purchase price put you in a monthly payment that you're comfortable with? That's where we're going to start. And then we're going to be able to search with confidence. You're pre-approved, you have a letter, you're looking at homes that are only falling in that parameter of what you're approved to buy. And we know that if you find that house, you're able to buy it. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is once you have started the process, the do's and don'ts of that loan process. And your loan officer will very likely tell you the same thing. It's that when you are approved for a mortgage, that is an honor and a privilege and a right, and it's one that you can lose very quickly if you make a mistake. So what we want you to do is make sure you don't do certain things once you do have that pre-approval in place. First of all, don't quit your job and don't change jobs. Now, this doesn't mean that if you get a great job offer and you need to make a decision that we're going to tell you to alter your life for that house. But we do say before you make a decision like that, talk to your loan officer. Let them know what you're doing, and so we can learn the consequences of that. I just had a transaction where the buyer won in a competing bid situation. I got a call 3 days later from their agent saying, you know what, she just changed jobs and she didn't tell her lender. So she's now 6 months away from being able to buy a home. So we don't want to do that. Don't allow anyone else to make inquiries. If you need to buy a car, don't go for the 20% off at Macy's and get a credit card. We want your credit report to look the same way 6 weeks from now as it does today. So don't apply for credit, don't change bank accounts or transfer unusual amounts of money from one account to another. Don't co-sign for anybody. If your best friend comes up and needs to co-sign for a car, know that's going to impact your credit. Don't try to go out and buy any big items like cars, trucks, or furniture. So excited because you're going to get a house, and all of a sudden, Big Sandy has a sale on beds, and you go in and you put $10,000 on their credit card. That you might have the furniture, but you might have lost the house. Okay. So, and don't change any abnormal amount on your credit cards or incoming money coming incoming. The lender has no way to judge you, Mary, and your credit worthiness except to follow the paper trail of how you've spent money, how you've shifted money. I had a situation once where a couple was getting a good part of their down payment from wedding gifts. They had a wedding shower and everybody was to bring money. So all of a sudden into their account, there was a big chunk of money. The loan officer said, whoa, stop the presses. Where did that money come from? And so Miss Parade said, oh, we're so excited. We had a shower and people were so generous. The lender said, can you prove to me you had a shower? So this embarrassed bride had to go to her maid of honor and say, could you find something to prove I had a shower on that day? The maid of honor was able to bring an invitation in and show that there was actually one. And so the lender finally said, okay, we believe you that there was a shower and there was money, but they love you, they don't trust you. Okay, so they're going to make sure that that happens. Don't be late on anything. If you're making payments, make sure they stay on time, and don't wait longer than the time given in your contract to provide all necessary information to your lender. So when the lender starts asking for paperwork and all that, in order to keep your loan on track, you jump on that. Okay? Any questions about any of that to get you pre-approved?
No, I think I'm good there.
Okay. The do's and don'ts during the loan process. Again, a few things here. Make sure you do keep all your accounts current. Do contact both your lender and your realtor anytime a question arises. Do make all payments on or before due dates. Do have any lender required money or funds to your loan officer within 72 hours after home inspections. And do return emails and phone calls. Make sure that you're staying in touch. Keep in mind that, that your lender is going on what you say and your performance and making sure you get this loan. And that's very important. You do all that and we'll get you to closing. So as I said, we're gonna share in your little book there. There's a few lenders that we work with. You can certainly work with anyone you want, but these are lenders. And while I'm on this page, I just want to share with you what I consider a good lender, because there's lots of them. But what you want is the lender who doesn't overpromise and underdeliver. And the lenders we recommend, if they say Mary's pre-approved, I can literally go to the bank with that. If they say we can close in 30 days, I know that we can schedule your movers, because that's what they're going to do. And even more than that, I want lenders who listen to you, who will meet you, and this is very important, but all the lenders we recommend are available on Saturday afternoons. Because again, that's when are we normally looking for houses? On weekends? I want a lender who's gonna respond to a text or a phone call in non-business hours. So we recommend that they're going to do that for you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So if we're out looking at houses and I have a ballpark idea of what I'm approved for in your search and stuff, but I really would like it nailed down, knowing like property taxes. So you're saying I could, one of the lenders you refer me to, I could reach out to them on the weekend.
Absolutely.
Give me an idea of payment.
In fact, I recommend that when you find a home you want to make an offer on. I mean, I can do a rough calculation, but if you want exact percentage of interest rate, purchase price, taxes, we're gonna ask you to contact the lender and they could give you that mortgage payment. So you have that confidence before you move over.
Okay.
Mary, we're gonna talk a little bit right now about the home buying process. I've made a little graph for you there in your book. The first thing you're gonna do is select a real estate agent. I hope that's me. I'd love to work with you. And in that process, we're going to sign an agreement which just says that you agree contractually, I can be your agent, and that when you buy a home, I do that commission we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Okay.
The next step is we're gonna have you get pre-approved.
Okay.
We're gonna then analyze your needs in a buyer consultation, which is what we're doing right now.
Okay.
We're going to set you up on the MLS system, which begins sending you houses that fit whatever you're looking for. You're going to begin selecting properties to be able to determine what you want to see. We're going to go see those properties. When you find one you want, we're going to write an offer. I'm going to negotiate on your behalf. You're going to accept the contract. And at that point, we go into 3 areas here. The title company is going to get involved and we do what's called a title search. That makes sure that you own that home free and clear, you and the bank, once you own it. If there are any issues, the title company is going to make sure those are removed. And then they're going to offer what's called a title insurance policy. That is not homeowner's insurance. That is insurance on the ownership of the home to make sure that if there were anything that in the past, such as tax liens or unpaid mechanical liens, or maybe there's an ex-husband that has some ownership on the home, the title company makes sure that none of those encumber the home or get in the way of you and your mortgage. While that's going on, the lender has a copy of the contract. They're going to make sure that we didn't go nuts and that contract matches what you were approved for. They're going to begin getting your mortgage financing in line. They're going to check your credit again, which is why you didn't go out and buy a sofa at Big Sandy's. And then they're going to send that to underwriting. They are going to order an appraisal on the home. They're going to say, yeah, we know Kathy Chiero, we think she's okay, but since we're putting up the money, we're going to send an appraiser out to make sure that that home is worth what you've agreed to pay for it. They're going to send a surveyor out to make sure that home sits on the lot the way it should. And they're going to make sure you get your homeowner's insurance in place, which we'll get to. So that's all going on and we don't even know it. That's going on behind the scenes. What we're doing is right over here. We are going to have an inspection on the property. We're going to resolve any issues and you're going to decide, do you still like that home enough to move forward on it? So just so you know, are you in a lease right now, Mary?
No.
Okay,
No.
so just so you know, from here, depending on how long, once we find a home right here, contract to closing is about 30 to 45 days, just for timing. How long it takes you to find the home, we don't know, we'll see. So once you've done your home inspection, it's okay. The lender's got the appraisal done, it's come back good. The title company says that the title's all good. And so now this property goes into what's called underwriting. The underwriter does one final check of everything. And in fact, they'll pull your credit again to make sure it's essentially the same. Yeah, they still don't trust you. They're gonna make sure. They're going to then double check, make sure you still have the funds you said you did to close on the home. They are then going to get their money to begin to send to the title company. We're gonna schedule the closing. And your money, along with the lender's money, is going to go to the title company. We're all gonna meet at the title company. You're gonna sign a stack of papers that thick saying you'll pay it all back. And then you own the property. And then the last step is you're gonna take possession of the home.
Okay.
Okay, now, I do not expect you to remember all this. As we walk through the process, I'll be reminding you.
Okay.
On
And
each
this
of
is
these,
mine to
that's
keep.
yours to keep, so
Okay.
you can go home and read that again. Now, when it's time to write the offer, what do I do for you? Again, a couple things I'm gonna find out for you. This is my job and why you hired me. Number one, we're gonna look at what type of sale it is. Is it a foreclosure, a short sale, a traditional sale, relocation, or estate sale? They all have different factors in them, Mary, that might affect you. We're gonna determine, is it priced right for the market? What is the current buyer activity? Are there any other offers on the home? What have other homes in the neighborhood sold for? What has sold recently, and how long has that home been on the market? I might also check out what's the seller's motivation. Are they price driven, or are there other terms that are important to them, such as a lease back after sale, where you take the hot tub that they don't want to take with you? What is the ideal closing date for the seller? And then the next thing we're going to talk about is, do you need any concessions paid on your behalf towards your closing costs? We're going to talk a little bit more about that, about the money it takes to buy a home. And so, but that goes into contract if you need any concession. We're going to take a chance, say, are there multiple offers on the property? That's not uncommon in this market. So if there are multiple offers, that might change the game a little bit. We're going to go over with you all of the choices you have to make in that scenario and help you craft an offer that's within your comfort level, but is the best offer you can make. So again, that's what my role becomes when I'm working with you.
Okay.
When you make an offer, the things that you might want to consider is you might want to consider the price. And again, I'll advise you as to whether or not that home is priced well. We'll talk about, are there other offers on it? What is that home likely to appraise for? We'll talk about the move-in date. Ohio is a little odd in the United States. We are one of only 12 states in the United States that allows the seller to stay in the home after closing. Most states that's illegal and not a term of the contract, but here, maybe it's a benefit to the seller that they have 2 weeks possession after closing and you're willing to give that to them. Well, that's a negotiable item. Maybe there's things in the home that the seller, I have a home in contract right now and they're moving into Friendship Village. They don't want anything in their home. They said, please ask the buyer to take everything if they want anything in here. So again, how do we negotiate that? Are there things in the home the seller wants to get rid of and you're willing to take? That's helpful. Typically, when we present an offer, you are not there and I am not there. So my job is to present it to the listing agent who will then present it to a seller. But it's also my job to represent you, to be on the phone with the listing agent, tell them what a great buyer you are, tell them how much you love the home, that you do understand the terms of the home inspection, that you're ready to move forward and fully committed. When that offer's made, one of three things is going to happen. The seller's either going to sign it and accept it, they're going to reject it, meaning they're not going to respond at all. That sometimes happens with multiple offers, or they're going to send back to us what's called a counteroffer, which says we accept all these terms, but here's some changes we want to make. When that counteroffer comes, you have the options. You can accept it, you can reject it, and say, boy, I slept on it, I don't want this house anymore. Or you can say, well, I kind of like that, but can we change this one small thing? And then we counter again. So we go back and forth, Mary, until all the signatures are on one page and we've agreed to terms. Does that make sense?
Is there a certain number of times that you can't counter past?
No, but that's a very good question. I would say typically, when an offer is made, the counter offer that comes back is usually minimal. We don't see a lot of changes. And if you're going to counter that, it's even a smaller number thing. So it could go back as many times as the buyer and seller go back and forth, but I would say typically to go back more than 3 times is unusual. And keep in mind that while you're going back and forth, and I'll remind you of this, you're not in contract. Just because they're dealing with you doesn't mean they couldn't turn around and accept another offer. So every time we counter, I'm gonna ask you,
I'm taking a chance.
you're taking a chance. The only way you know this house is yours is by signing this document. If you don't sign it and we counter again, then you may be in a position that you're gonna lose that house. Next thing we're gonna talk about is the home inspection. And I'm gonna let you read that page, but one of your very important steps in the buying process is your right to do a home inspection. This is done after you're in contract. You're given a very limited time, usually 7 to 10 days to do it. And in that 7 to 10 days, it is your job to hire, and we help you, we'll suggest home inspectors to you, but you're going to hire the home inspector. You're going to make arrangements with your schedule to meet the home inspector at the house. Most buyers do a thorough 3 to 4 hour inspection. That's going to cost you about $400, which we're going to get to the cost here in a minute. Some buyers are going to want a radon inspection to measure for radon gas. Some buyers are going to do a termite inspection. If you buy a home that's in the rural area, you're going to do a well and septic inspection. But this is your time to thoroughly look at the condition of the home. After you've done the home inspection, you generally have 3 options. You can walk away, say, I don't want the house anymore. You can move forward, saying, I'm thrilled with the condition, I'm ready to buy it. Or you can put together what we call a request to remedy. It's a fancy term, it just means this is the repairs I'd like the seller to do on the home. That request is a negotiable document. It's not a demand. When you make that request, the seller has 3 options. They can say, yes, we'll do all the repairs, they'll sign it. They can say, no, we're not going to do any of the repairs. They can say, I'll do this, but I won't do that. And I'm sorry, there's a 4th option. They can say, we don't want to do anything, but we'll take $2,000 off the price. You can do it. Now, ultimately, Mary, it's still your decision. Whatever they do, you have to agree to, or you have the right to walk away. And again, you're not doing this alone. We will be there to help you make sure that you're comfortable with your home. And the other thing I always tell you, Mary, too, is we're going to make sure that the requests you make are reasonable within the scope of a home inspection. The home inspection is not a landlord list. It's not your last time to have every torn screen fixed or every bolt tightened. The home inspection, the way I describe the home inspection is, and I'll remind you of this when we get close, the items that matter should be items that, had you known before you made an offer, you would not have bought the house or you would have not offered what you did on the house. So they should be major enough items to really make you second guess moving forward on the home. And again, we'll help you with that. Once again, we will give you the names of some home inspectors and some various inspections you can do. Roughly, it's going to be, if you do most of the inspections that buyers do, it will run about $1,000. The investment into your home, again, your key is you have a limited amount of time to do it, to get that home inspection done. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about, you brought this up earlier, is you're going to hear the word PITA. It's cut off at the top there, but PITA stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So what we're saying is that when you're looking at a mortgage payment, this is why you want to call the lender to be sure it is not just the principal, it is the principal of your loan, the interest being paid on that loan, the taxes on the home. So when we're looking at taxes, you're going to look at those year taxes and divide by 12, because that's going to be added to your mortgage payment. And then your insurance on the home, both the homeowner's insurance and also private mortgage insurance, if you have put less than 20% down. So those terms are the ones that we want to make sure when you call your lender and say, I love this home, what would my mortgage payment be? Your lender's going to put all that in for you. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about how much this will cost you. It does cost money to buy a home, and I've broken down the cost of these expenses into 4 categories.
Okay.
The first is what I call pre-closing expenses, and these are expenses are usually paid prior to closing on the home. Now, I'm gonna be general here because all lenders are different.
Okay.
But what you will probably be asked to pay before you close on your home is a credit report fee. This is non-refundable. This is usually paid at the time of loan application. However, it might also be included in what we call closing costs. Closing costs is the money your lender charges you for the, for procuring the loan, for them doing the work.
Okay,
You are gonna pay for an appraisal on your home. That usually runs $400 to $450, although I'll say I had a closing today and it was $600. So I need to ask my lender that. But anyway, $400 to $450, this is non-refundable. This is once you've paid that money, you don't get it back because the lender is going to have an appraiser go out there and look. So if the deal falls apart or you don't buy the home, you're out that money.
okay.
We talked about doing a home inspection. Again, that home inspection is gonna run $350 to $400. It can be more depending on the size of your home. This pays for the whole house inspection. Other inspections you may want are radon, termite, well, and septic. So you could easily be out about $1,000 on your inspections.
Okay.
And finally, you will be putting up what we call earnest money. I like to call it changing your mind money because it's money that you're gonna put up at the beginning that tells the seller, I'm committed to buying this home. And if I change my mind for any reason that is not a legally allowed contingency, I understand I might lose that money. So that can be nothing. You can say, I don't want to offer any earnest money, or you might want to make a strong offer and increase it to show the seller you're serious. This dollar figure shows the buyer's level of commitment to the home and is returned at closing. And then finally, pre-closing, 1 year of homeowner's insurance paid in advance. And that in Ohio, that's anywhere from $900 to $2,000, depending on the house you buy. But your lender is going to want to see that you paid that in advance. So as you look over this list, depending, I'll take the earnest money out because that's money you get back, but you are out around $1,500 to $2,000 before. Now,
Okay.
yeah, so again, earnest money and your homeowner's insurance would not be paid out if you ended up not buying the home. But all these, your inspection fees would be paid out.
Okay.
The next thing, the next cost is the closing cost on the home. These are fees charged by your lender to process and fund the loan. They're paid at closing. So this is not money you're gonna have to give the lender until you're sitting at the closing table. But just to give an idea, your lender will be able to tell you, this is, again, all over the board. It could be $1,500 to $10,000 or more, depending on the type of loan you're getting. Conventional loans have lower closing costs. FHA and VA closing costs can be 3 to 5% of the purchase price. Now, here's the important thing. They can be paid out of pocket or they can be built into your loan. So we can ask the seller to pay those for you, keeping in mind that in a competitive market, your offer will not be as strong if you're asking for closing costs generally. Or you may have to add that amount to whatever you're offering. Say you're buying a $250,000 home and you need $5,000 in closing costs, we would offer $255,000 and we would ask the seller to contribute that back to you. And the closing cost funds must be verified at the time of loan application. So if you tell your lender, yeah, I have that money, they're gonna say, which account is it in? We can see it. And here's the thing, Mary, it can be any account. It can be a savings, it can be a checking, it can be a retirement account. The lender just wants to see that you have liquid access to that money.
Okay.
And then number 3 of the 4 groups is your down payment. That is your investment into your home. That can be 0 to 20% or more. I will tell you that very few 0 down payment programs still available. FHA loans require 3.5% of the purchase price as down payment. Veterans can still purchase for 0 down. And obviously, the more down payments you have, the lower your mortgage payment. If you want to avoid what we call private mortgage insurance, that's a little tag onto your mortgage payment. Private mortgage insurance is an insurance policy that covers the mortgagee. Doesn't do anything for you. It just gives the mortgagee some bailout money if you are to default on the loan. So what the lender says is, look, if you have 20% down and default on the loan, we're not worried because we know we only have an 80% equity stake. We can sell the home and get all our money back. But if you're only putting 3.5% down and default, we want some insurance on that to make sure that if you default on the loan, we get part of our money back.
Okay,
So,
makes
does
sense.
it make sense?
That makes
Okay,
sense.
the fourth cost that is going to come here is your realtor's compensation. My compensation, Mary, is negotiable. It's my hope that you feel about my value to you is worth 3% of the purchase price of the home. I hope in what I've shown you here that the work that I'm doing is worth that. But again, we'll discuss that as to what you're comfortable with, and what you have the money for. So what options do you have for paying that commission? Because this is probably a surprise to you, I'm guessing.
Honestly, I'm very surprised. My husband and I have talked and, you know, we have the down payment and the earnest money. My parents have mentioned that to me and we know the inspections and stuff and we worked so hard to get our credit up, but this, I'm just a little taken back by. Is this new? What?
Yeah, I'm thinking that you are thinking, you always thought the seller paid that, is that correct?
Right.
And you're absolutely right. This is
Okay.
new. This is
Okay.
brand new. But it is new and some things haven't changed. So let me explain to you what your
Okay.
options are for this and
Okay.
we'll work through this.
Okay.
First of all, if you said, yeah, I have the money to pay that, I'll just pay that out of pocket, you can do that. And one of the advantages of paying that fee out of pocket is this will allow you to negotiate a lower price if the seller has allowed for some compensation in the sale price of their home. And we'll talk about that. So you could say, well, wait a minute, the seller is offered a 3% compensation. I would rather take 3% off the price and pay it myself and have a lower purchase price on the home. So that if you have the money, that's one option. The other thing you can do is you can ask the seller to make a contribution towards the concession towards the compensation. It's still common many times for the seller to include allowance for the buyer's agent's commission in their purchase price. Now, how that works, Mary, is that when we go to start looking at houses, I'm going to check and find out on each house that we look at, has the seller offered any compensation to me? And let's say you and I come to an agreement that, yeah, Kathy, I think you deserve and I want you to work for the 3%. And let's say we go to the seller and they say, yeah, we've worked into this price 3% towards the buyer's agent. Then that's done. It's like the old days and you're going to make an offer and know that that part of this equation is taken care of.
Okay.
But let's say we go to that and they say, no, we're only offering 2%. Well, that brings up number 3 here is that you can say, okay, I'll take the seller's 2%. And I think my husband and I could swing 1% paying.
Okay.
We just can't swing,
Maybe
the whole
not.
3%. Yeah.
Right.
Another thing, and not to get too complicated here, but you've told me that you have money for your closing costs. Well, we could turn around and raise the price of the home and ask the seller to contribute towards your closing costs. And that might free up that 1% that you need to pay me. So again, your options for paying my commission will be to pay the fee out of pocket, to ask the seller to contribute towards the commission, because again, that's still common that we're seeing the seller do that, or to do a combination, to say, I'll take what the seller is offering, and then I will also see what I can come up with to make up that difference.
Okay.
Does that make
It
sense?
does, it makes sense. I just didn't know anything about it, so
Right.
it's a little surprise, but you know, everything you're showing me, I can see that you're providing a ton of value.
Yeah,
Trying to help us find houses.
and I want you to get in the house. I don't want you to worry about all that.
Right.
But what I want you to do is be realistic and know that our profession has changed generally, and that now it becomes very important before we look at a house
That
to
we know.
determine that you know what you're going to have out of pocket
Right.
before you make
Okay.
that decision.
Well, I appreciate you telling me, I just didn't know.
Yeah. So
Okay.
now, having been through this, are we clear? Do you have any questions about the home buying process? And
No.
as I said, you have the book to read, and also as we're looking at houses, I know I've thrown a lot of information at you.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be still talking to you through houses and reminding you that.
Okay.
When we write an offer, we're gonna sit down and go over a whole lot of this again,
Okay.
so that you have any questions you have answered, things like that.
Okay.
Okay?
That sounds.
So the
great.
next thing we need to do is, we have a buyer agency agreement that I'm gonna go over with you. And are you comfortable, Mary? I'm gonna let you read this over, but are you comfortable then with me assigning myself the compensation of the 3%? Or would you like to discuss that further to kind of decide what you want to do?
I mean, I'm fine with you receiving the 3%. I'm gonna be honest, I hope that whatever house we fall in love with, the sellers do decide, you know, they offer the 3. But, I feel your value is worth the 3, and like you mentioned, with closing cost money, I think we have some options.
Okay.
I am.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna go over this with you. We'll sign it. We'll be on our way to look at houses.
Okay,
And I want you to know that I will be fair with you as well. I
Okay.
am not gonna
I
leave you
appreciate that.
homeless over a few $100s. If
Okay.
I can make it work, I will make it work. I think, I trust you, that you understand my value,
Mhm.
and that you agree that you want me to get paid for
Right.
representing you.
Right.
But I also don't want you to lose a house you love
Okay.
simply because of a hint, you know, few $100s that
I
we can make
appreciate
it.
that.
Okay?
I appreciate it. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Go over that. All right. Any questions?
So in a presentation, in your previous presentations, you mentioned introduced the buyer to what the seller's market requires you to put in a contract. This is a buy what you would like, this is what the seller would like to see. You don't go through this anymore. Are we in a market where we're in the middle, or you can do that when you are writing an offer? Do you remember that form where this is what the buyer wants, and it's a list of things,
Yeah.
and this is what actually the seller wants you to do, and this is where the market is.
Yeah.
So
So yes, we would have that, we would have a market specific discussion when they're ready to make an offer on a house. For example, if Mary is making an offer on a home and you heard what she's able to do, and let's say the seller's only offering 2% on here. And so we're making an offer. And so I'm gonna tell her that her limits financially are gonna affect her ability to get this house if you're in a multiple offer situation, just like it is now,
Right.
including now the realtor compensation. If the seller's offering nothing and she wants to make an offer, well, we're gonna have that discussion of say, okay, well, I need to get paid and there's likely to be multiple offers. So there's likely to be people who are going to be okay with the seller offering nothing. And so we are not in a good negotiating position for that. Just, it's the same now, it's just one more factor thrown in. But even now, we're working with buyers who are limited as to what they can offer in multiple offer situations. But yeah, what I've done here is gone over the overview of everything. But obviously, when we get to a house, we're gonna look at specifics of what that seller wants and what the buyer is able to do.
And can you asked for, you asked Binion if she's okay with you putting that 3%. I usually say it's negotiable, but this is my fee. Is this?
Well, it's semantics. They still have to agree to it.
Yeah.
And I said at the beginning, I said, I hope you feel like my value is at 3%.
With what's going on here now, I'm not sure if Mark has any, but can we say that? Can we say, but this is my fee?
I think so. I mean,
But you also have to live with, okay, Rima, I understand that should be, but I can't pay it.
Yeah.
So now the question is, what are you gonna do? Do you say, well, I can't, sorry, you may have to work with another realtor,
yeah,
or is this a business decision? Where you say, well, let's work it out.
you're gonna do what listing agents have done since Jesus walked the earth. And that is, we get that question all the time.
All of them.
3%, will you do it for 2%? Will you do it for 1.5? Well, so it's no different. And I've always told my team, it comes down to a business decision. I recently lost a listing because the homeowner told me up front, sat down, did my spiel, and she goes, well, I had a Redfin in here who said they do it for 1%. I started packing myself up because I'm not doing it for 1%, sorry. It's a business decision. Now, I'll tell you where this gets sticky is when you start selling $600,000 and $700,000 and $800,000 homes and you're getting paid $30,000. So that's when you may very well settle on a flat fee. You know, you might tell your buyer, I'll tell you what, because of the price point you're in, let's forget percentages. I'll do it for $15,000. You know, again, it's your business. It's whatever is worth it to
It
you.
won't be a business decision. We've already started to see flat fee brokers establish themselves.
Yeah,
And this, we have, I mean, July isn't here yet. And we already have flat fee brokerages opening up.
who are saying, you know, I didn't know this, I'm probably the last one to know this, but Redfin is always 1.5% on everything they list. Now, what they do is take it from the buyer so that they're 2% and give you 2.5%. But I had a Redfin agent tell me the other day that their employees, and it's always 1.5%, the fee. So again, and this is where I think we're getting so afraid of what to say that we let common sense go out the window. I have a fee for services. There's nothing illegal about me telling Mary my fee for services. If it's 5% or 10% or whatever, that's my fee, that's my business, that's my decision. What I cannot do is tell her that that number's not negotiable. And if she says to me, Kathy, you know, that's just a lot of money on a $500,000 home. Would you be willing to do it for 2%? Then that's a business decision on my end. When we do it, and correct me, Mark, if I'm wrong, but what the lawsuit charged us with is lack of disclosure, lack of information, and lack of choice. That we were telling people you have no choice. And so it is what it is. And meanwhile, the claim is that people were paying inflated prices and inflated fees because they weren't disclosed and they weren't given a choice. So the conversation has to be there. Mary has a choice. Now, Mary could sit there and say, well, wow, my friend from college just got her license. Do you mind if I talk to her first to see if it costs less to do that? That's a conversation. Again, listing agents can all the time.
But at the same time, you showed her your value. So
Right.
We're counting on the value that we're bringing
Correct.
to the table. And now, if a new agent is.
It's
getting
no
that
different than-
1%, that value is gone.
Well, and again, I'll say this
loyalty
again,
is not really-
this is what listing agents have done forever. I don't know how many times I have sat across from a homeowner who has told me that there is an agent who will do it for X. It's gone on for decades. And I have to say to them, well, I hope what I bring to you, the years of experience and the things I've offered in this presentation make you see that there's a difference between me and that agent, but you certainly have the choice of hiring that other agent, you know, if you wish to. But what I clearly see coming is that buyer's agents are going to start probably taking less just out of necessity. And as Mark mentioned, I clearly see coming on high-end listings that you're not going to get 3%, that you're going to have a seller say, I think it's ridiculous to pay you $47,000. I'll give you 20. You know, and then you have to ask yourself, am I going to walk away from 20 because there's 40 agents behind me that'll take it tomorrow, you know, for that. So part of it is yes, I think the days of that hard line, we're not negotiating, that's what it is gone, but that doesn't mean you don't come in with a fee. In other words, you don't cower from saying what your value is. Now, if you want to negotiate below that, it's up to you. But, you know, it used to be like when I did listing appointments, the agents used to say to me, well, do you ever compromise your commission? And I say, yes, but I don't bring it up. In other words, I'm never going to offer that. But if they say to me, and it's something that I'll do, then I'll have that conversation. Well, now what we're finding is that conversation has to happen up front, both on the listing end and the buying end. But as I showed you in the listing presentation, I honestly believe, and we'll have this meeting in a year and see if it's true, that it's not going to be that difficult. I truly believe you're going to have sellers who are just seeing the common sense of contributing to the buyer, and you're not going to see a big change in that. And the good that comes out of this, and I can't stress that enough, the good that comes out of this is it's going to clear the table of these agents who have been operating without any regard to the buyer and just taking phone calls and meeting it. They're going to be out of business because they can't sell their value. The second thing I would say is it's going to force us to be the professionals that we are. And instead of the buyer sitting at closing table and looking at what you made and saying, I found the house, I'm the one that drove by, I'm the one, that sort of thing. You're gonna have the buyer who, thanks you with every, every ounce of their being, because they know they wouldn't be there without your knowledge, without, what you did. And they will tell others, oh no, don't do it alone. Call Jill. She was, she did all of this. So I honestly believe it's not going to be a huge disruptor of our industry. And where it is a disruptor, it's a disruption we need. It's a disruption we need to do that. Now, one thing, Mark, and I know Mark is going to a brokers meeting on Friday where all some of the stuff's going to be handed out.
Yeah,
Is that
Ohio Realtors is having a update on all the legal repercussions, and what it means to all of us on Friday. It's gonna be a pretty point, it's not an open thing, there's not gonna be a bunch of questions or anything. But if we have questions that we really are concerned about, I can submit the questions prior to Friday. And they will make sure that they're part of the topic of discussion. Our questions may be the same as $100, but nonetheless, if we have any questions, I could shoot them over to the OR NAR legal team and they can get them addressed, and I'll bring them back to the office.
So what I would do for those of you who are buyer's agents, if you want to know what your homework is I would begin working on your buyer's meeting, whether it's a PowerPoint. I up until 5 years ago, I came in with a sheet of well-copied paper. And I was one of the top agents in the city, and I still did Xerox things where I just, Shirley brought me into the cool age. But anyway, but so I don't want you to feel like, oh, I have to be really slick, or I have to, to do all this, but you have to have something. You need to go home and begin methodically walking through. If I had to sit in front of a buyer, how would I tell them how to buy a home? And you need to have something in hand that becomes your buyer presentation. So the next time the phone rings, you begin practicing. And if you're like me, you'll tweak that presentation twice a year as you learn and as things change, but you will get so that that is out of habit. And then the next time that you get a phone call or a buyer, you know that your first response is going to be, can we take an hour in my office before we go look at that house? It's never about you, it's always about them. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the process and the cost. I've answered all of your questions before we go. And I think what you're going to find is it's a much smoother transaction. You're not going to have landmines going off in your transaction, finding out that, oh yeah, they really don't have money, or oh yeah, they really aren't divorced, or oh yeah, those things, anything that can come up will come up in that meeting, so that you'll be prepared for it and know what to do. So that's probably the most
Brings
essential
a
thing.
high
I'll
level
tell you
of
to do.
safety to your business too,
Right.
high level of safety and validation. I mean, we have, what do we have, 13,000 square feet here? And you walk in them front doors and you walk in the glass room, and that people have already made 50% of their decision they're going with you.
Right.
And then, if you come in with a presentation like Kathy has, and I challenge us all to get that done, and don't wait time. I mean, I would say, okay, let's get it done in a week and do a rough copy, maybe get a group together and say, this is what I'm doing. But you need to have this type of presentation.
Go walk you through it.
I do that. I don't visit any of my commercial clients. I go, okay, come on here. He goes, well, I want to look at the property. I go, I think we have a better shot looking on the computer and looking at a 48-inch screen. I'm not running down there.
Here's what I'll offer those of you. I don't know that we have enough copies of these left, because we're actually reprinting them to add some of this information. But I am happy to leave one of these copies with the office. And if you guys want to make copies of this and give it to you guys, I have no problem doing that. This is
Maybe we can scan it.
Yeah.
And then you could download it to your own.
And Shirley, what does it, I'm not saying you have to do this. What does it cost to copy these? I mean, to put this together?
I think it's a little over $3 a copy.
$3 a copy or something. And as I said, we've gotten one of our good lenders to sponsor a good chunk of it. So again, it's an investment in your business, makes you look good. But if you don't do this, at the very least, you have something so that they're walking out of that room with something in their hand of value. A question I do have for you, Mark, and I don't know if this will come up on Friday, if it's going to be the forum. But as a listing agent, I get calls all the time to show my own listings. So what do and so what do I do? Do I have to go have a buyer meeting with them before and they have to sign an agreement with me before I show a home? It sounds like that's what they're saying. Yeah.
I think,
What about an open?
well, what I
Yeah.
heard is,
Open house, it's another one, yeah, they're,
Because remember, on these new listing agreements coming out, you're gonna have 3 boxes in there. This is what I understand. You're gonna have a listing box that says, this is how I'm gonna be compensated. And oh, by the way, Mr. Seller, you know, you did agree to pay the buyer's agent this box.
yeah.
And if I'm a dual agent, Mr. Seller, then I get this box.
Mhm.
So if she's, you know, if you don't have that buyer's agreement, you know, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know,
And,
so-
well, and I read an article last week in the Wall Street Journal where, you know, they were demonizing realtors as being unnecessary. And one person said, well, yeah, I'm never gonna use a realtor, I'll just call my attorney. And I thought, okay, how's your attorney gonna get you in the house?
Right.
How are you gonna get in the
A lot
house?
of others do that
Yeah,
too.
you're gonna call me to get in the house and I'm gonna say, I can't let you in without signing a buyer agreement with me. So I don't know how that's gonna, you know,
Yeah.
it'll force,
Remember, if you
it'll
don't have
force.
that buyer's agreement. You don't get, you have a higher percentage of chance. I think Kathy mentioned this earlier in her presentation. You may not get paid.
Yeah,
Right? You know, you're gonna write the contract, you're gonna negotiate terms, you're gonna do all the inspections, you're gonna do all the title preparation, all that. And you're gonna get to the closing table and buyer says, we didn't come to an agreement. I ain't paying you nothing.
Right.
What happens
And
if they do
now
that
you have,
anyway?
you
You know
know,
what I
see, if
mean?
you don't get
Whatever you
paperwork, it's always been, if you don't have it in writing. And you come to me and say, Mark, you know, I did all this work, I'm gonna go, let me see your buyer's agency agreement. Well, I don't have one, I go, well, that's how much you're getting paid. What do we have to fight for?
Yeah.
If you don't have an agreement, what do we have to fight for?
How's it gonna work with teams? That's, I was asking that in our meeting the other day.
Teams?
Yeah, because if individual agents, the agreement is between the buyer or seller and them. But is everything under the Cairo group and? that
No,
means
it's the same.
Somebody's on vacation, can somebody else on the team show them without any buyer's agreement? Can I go ahead and do the request?
That's an appointment of agent within the group, and your agents, you have your,
team agency.
you have your team agency agreement. That all the Cairo group is one and the same. And so if you can't make it on a showing and, you know, I have to go show it for you, then that's between us and the Cairo group and how that's gonna work out.
Okay,
You gotta.
But you do have to, if you go on 30 showings, you gotta make 30 phone calls.
Yeah, or however they decide they're gonna,
You're,
I
you
hope
mean,
it's not phone
if
call.
your average person just kind of on the job.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a hypothetical, you're a listing agent and, may not happen a lot, but the seller does not want to co okay? And then you've got a buyer and the buyer does not want to pay for a buyer's agent, but they want to look at this house. They're gonna have to call the listing agent to look at it. And the listing agent's gonna say, well, wait a minute. I'm doing all this work to show you this house and I'm not getting paid.
well,
Either
beyond
side.
that, beyond getting paid, they don't have an agreement signed with that buyer. And now who represents who?
Right,
So
right.
let me tell you what happens all the time when I list a house. I will always, oh, go ahead. I'm
Well,
sorry.
let me just
Yeah.
throw one more thing out there. Could you just say to that buyer that calls you, I don't want to show it, or are you gonna make the seller mad because you didn't show the house to someone that called you?
No, and then you led right into the story. I already do that. Because one of the things that I will not do is show a home to a buyer when they have already told me that they're represented by another agent or they will not. Go ahead, what?
No, go ahead, you're done.
But here's what happened when I list a home. Someone calls me, hi, my name is Joe. I want to see your new listing on Main Street. And I say, okay, Joe, let me ask you a few questions. Do you have a realtor representing you? Okay, let's start there. If they hesitate at all, or if they say, well, my agent's on vacation, or well, I don't want to waste my agent's time, all that, then what I say to them, well, Joe, I appreciate you caring for your agent that much, but I'm not going to step on their toes. You need to call them. Well, they're out of town. Okay, then you need to call someone in their office to show the home to you. Well, can't you just show it? No, I can't. I mean, that's just it. They have an agent. Okay, that's one thing. If they say, no, I want you to show it to me, and I don't have an agent, and I say to them, are you willing, if I meet you at that house, are you willing to sign a buyer agency agreement that I can represent you on the purchase of homes? No, I just want to find homes on my own. I say to them, you know what? I don't do that, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I will refer you to an agent who will show it to you. That could be someone on my team. That could be another agent. I just, as a business decision, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going out there to show you a house that if you don't like, I just took 2 hours and you've already up front told me you're not going to use me as your agent. So I'm not saying I won't look for the house, show them a house, or I'm saying I've got an agent, someone on my team will show it to you, or I'll say, I have some great agents, I'll refer you, because I'm sure some of you would love to do it, and I'll get you out there to see the house. Or another thing that really pisses them off is I say, I'll tell you what, I will let you know when I'm going to be at that house. And if you're available to meet me there, run on over, but I'm not making a trip out there to do that. Now, again, that's a business decision on my end, because I learned decades ago that 9 out of 10 times I'm wasting my time with someone. And the other thing to listen for is I'll say, yeah, what time are you available to see it? Well, I'm looking at another home at 1 o'clock. Okay, stop right there. Who's showing you that home? The listing agent. Okay, who's the listing agent? The listing agent is Jill Campbell. Tell Jill I said hi. And by the way, just ask Jill to show it to you. You're already with her, so have her show it. So again, it's a business decision. You're not in this business to be nice. You're not in this business to have someone like you. You're in this business to make a living. Now, you can be nice and they can like you while you're making a living, but I am not going to miss my son's ball game because somebody wants to see a home and they've told me up front that they either have a realtor or they're not going to commit to me as their realtor. I'm just a door opener for them, and I'm not going to do it.
So one of the, we always ask, Rima, are you working with an agent? And she'll go, well, yeah, I am. That's the wrong question. Are you exclusively working with another realtor? Because there's exclusive and non-exclusive agreements. I can go out with you on a one-on-one basis, on a non-exclusive agreement that you and I have agreed to go see 123 Main Street. If you buy it, I'm your man. But outside of that, you may go to somebody else if you go see another house. But you have to start asking more direct questions. Keller Williams always says, you have to learn how to ask good questions. And it's not, are you working with an agent? Are you working exclusively with an agent? And do you have an agreement signed?
And here's the thing, and I tell you this, agents are afraid to ask that question because they feel like they're being pushy, or it's a personal question, or what. One agent said, well, that's none of my business. I said, it is your business. I mean, it is literally your business. That's how you make money.
It's your legal obligation.
Yeah, that's how you make money. So it is literally your business to ask that question as to whether or not they're working. And again,
here's what will happen. You show that agent and then that person has an exclusive agency with another buyer. Now who's got procuring costs? Who's going to battle on that one?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I hate those battles.
And here's what happens, and this is why these Zillow leads and buying these leads has wreaked havoc. I mentioned my son's a realtor, and his team leader buys Zillow leads. And I asked him one time, I said, Christian, how loyal are these people? He goes, Mom, they're awful. They're not loyal. They're just calling to get into a house and they're gone. And I said, well, then I'm like baffled. Why are you paying for them? And why are you doing it? And he goes, because on the off chance that I get to pick up one of them as a buyer. And I'm telling you, and I've done this for 28 years, I don't live on off chances. I'm going to work with you if you're committed to me. And here's what I say when people call me, and they'll say, another thing I don't do is one-on-one dual agency. I almost never do it. I do it in unique circumstances where it's a win-win, but I remember one time I had a listing on campus, and I got, some of you commercial realtors might know the guy. It's a Greek guy who owns 50 homes on campus. And if you ever work with him, I don't remember his name, but anyway, if you ever sold a home on campus, nobody works with a realtor. They'll go right to the listing agent so that they can cut the commission and get the deal done, to try to get a leg in. So this Greek guy, don't remember his name, calls me and he says, I want a cash offer on your home on so-and-so. And of course, there's multiple offers on them. And I said, Mr. So-and-so, that's great, but I don't do dual agency. I'm going to send you one of my agents. He goes, no, I want you to keep all the commission. I said, no, Mr. Smith, I don't do that because I don't believe ethically I can represent both parties, but I'm going to have my assistant call you. It baffled the heck out of him. He could not, he said, I've never had an agent do this. And I said, well, okay, I'm the first then, but I'm not going to do it. And so he got one of my assistants to call to get him. He wrote up the offer and he wasn't the winning bid. Now it had nothing to do with commission because he was willing to pay the whole commission. It had to do with, I just ethically don't believe in conflicting interests, representing two conflicting interests, and I get double the money. I think it should be illegal. So anyway, so again, when you're a newer agent, and especially if you're scrambling for every dollar you can get, it is easy to feel like time is money, even when you're spending a lot of time and making no money. And so only after you have spent a lot of time making no money, do you start saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to spend time when I'm not making money. And so you become smarter about who you're willing to work with and asking the right questions. And there are no personal questions. And if they're offended by the question, then you don't want them as a client anyway.
Was
So
it
there's
Charlie Capilano?
what?
Was it Charlie Capilano?
George. What's his name?
Candelabra.
That's it, George Candelopoulos, and I think he owns 100 units downtown. And he came across one realtor who would not do business with him, who said, no, you're gonna go. But again, I say it doesn't mean you have to be unprofessional, doesn't mean you have to lack courtesy, but it means you have to run a business and you have to say no when somebody wants to waste your time. And that's what this is. I mean, if we have a conversation, and here's what I was telling Mary at the end. If you find a house you love and they're only offering 2.5 and you agree to 3, I am not going to allow you to lose a home over my 0.5%. Okay, I'm going to help you. We're going to work together, but we have to come to some terms that I'm going to get paid when I show this house, because that's how I make a living.
Right.
And that's how you're going to get into a good house. And if you can master that conversation, I guarantee you, if you start now putting that together and you start practicing and start using it, a year from now, you and I are going to have this meeting and think, what were we worried about?
Right.
We're all making about the same money we always were. We've gotten rid of 3,000 agents who shouldn't have been in the business anyway. And happy days are here again. We're working that. There is an agent in town, Joan, last name. Yeah, Elfline, she has been a,
MLS entry.
yeah, MLS entry only agent for years and years. So
Just about all of her career.
yeah, all of her career, and she's one of the top agents in the city, and she has this conversation every time someone lists their home. And so I got a lot of the documents from her. She sent me what she uses. But she said, Kathy, I can count on 2 hands the number of times a homeowner said they don't want to offer anything, and it's extremely rare to go under 2%. She goes, virtually everybody does 2 to 3%, and that's going back years. I mean, that's going back decades. So I just think that this is not going to be a big deal, but it is going to require a shift in business. We're going to have to up our games, be better at what you do, know how to sell your value, put materials together to help you sell your value, and just change the way you do business. And you will end up being the ones who succeed when everybody else realizes, oh my gosh, I have to do more than answer a phone to get paid. Yes.
And you have to, I think you're gonna have to prepare, because there are people out there that will just be real direct and pushy. I just, just show me the house. That's all I want to do, is just show me the house.
Yeah.
You do it right now. Like, if you could meet me out there right now, I'll work with you, and
And you know what, when they say that, they say, well, I have other agents that do it, and then you have to say, then they are breaking the law. And I am not gonna break the law for you, I'm sorry,
Yeah, now it's becoming law.
yeah,
Now
Yeah.
it's becoming law.
Well,
It is
it's helpful now.
yeah.
Do you feel like, I mean, my first impression was, Doug Frank, when he worked on putting all those documents to protect buyers, I feel now we're going backward in a way that we're taking everything out of the hands of the buyers, and that is awareness that we should probably spread with the buyers, and I'm here to
Yeah.
protect you, because this is what this is what gave you rights and
Yeah.
gave us obligations, and this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, I agree. You have a question
Does
back?
this affect anything like with foreclosure auction sales? 'Cause I know in foreclosure, a lot of places, they charge a 10 or 20% buyer's premium. Does that have anything to do with this?
Well, you still have agency, and you're still representing them, so I would say, yes, you still have to,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe, well, again, the auction, and we're going through this logically in my head. The auction house is the seller, and if the auction is advertised in the MLS, then they would be treated like any other agent. And that commission, the 20% buyer premium on an auction covers not only buyer, but the seller's commission. It covers all the closing costs, basically. So I would guess that it would be the same thing, that the auction, if there is a buyer premium, the buyer essentially has already agreed to pay. To pay all that.
You remember, you still have to have a consumer guide, you're going on with the buyer, you still need to
Yeah,
have a consumer guide sign.
yeah.
You know, how many people do it after you're in contract? Like a lot of you, because I see the dates.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Okay, you guys have been great. I'm gonna put, I'm gonna put these at the front desk. I'll ask Darren to make copies of them. And if you signed in on the list, then this can be emailed to you, and you can work on making your own buyer.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Jack.
Well,
That's the best scolding I've gotten in years.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
I told Shirley you were coming to